Welcome back, everybody, to the Prep One podcast.
Welcome back. Full people are here. Full show.
The full cast, the full
cast,
crew.
the full crew. All of the people are here today.
Yeah,
I
just I want to issue out my public apology and everything, to everybody. I know all my fans and everybody were missing. I got all the fan mail and everything sent to me, and I understand. I'll get back to all of you as soon as possible, but unfortunately, I was having technical difficulties last week, and I was unable to attend the show. But it's okay because Jerry Alvarez over here, you held down the fort and you pulled off a great show, man. Good job. I appreciate you doing that in clutch, and it's probably not going to be the first time you do it either, because I know I got some some out of town trips coming up pretty soon. So
yeah, I know for sure. I do know next week, right?
Yep, next week I will.
Yeah, so heads up, everyone. Next week it'll be the one more time, Jerry the Jer Bear. So you'll get to hear my voice for a whole hour one more time, if it's an hour again. Yeah, we got some big games coming up this week across the board, so it might be an hour. So we'll see.
All sports, actually. I mean, we lost your video there, Jerry, but we'll go ahead and continue. I'm sure we can still hear you. And he's back.
Yeah, hang on. I'm just putting my camera back up. There we go. I don't know what happened there.
It's all good. Yeah, like you had mentioned, you got a cross country already in the mix, past districts. You got volleyball. Pretty much last week and a half of games, and then they're getting into playoffs. And football, you got about 2 weeks left, and they're getting into playoffs too. So it's
almost right at the yeah, I mean, you're correct. Like volleyball, like you said, and then right now, football, you're in the latter part of the season where every game has playoff implications. I mean, there's a handful of teams where they know they're not going to make it. There's a handful that know they are, but there's a good bunch right in the middle where these games, it's playoffs. It's playoff time for them. You win, you move on. You lose, you go home. So now some of these teams got to win out. So we'll see. It's going to be exciting.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to it, and we'll get right into all of that right after we roll the intro.
Roll it.
Cool. And we're back. So again, like I said, I know last week we didn't have a whole lot of cross-country things going on, but this week it was in full swing, right, Jerry? As far as cross-country is concerned?
Oh, yeah, it was full swing this week. Actually, district meets.
Oh, so it was the districts this week. Okay.
District meets happened this week. Yeah, so it was districts. So let's get right into that. Exciting now, playoff time.
So real quick, I'm curious, how does it work, man? Like the scoring, or how does it work when it comes to districts and cross country?
Okay, so when it comes to cross country, it's team as well as individual. And so individual, you're going to get your PRs, you're going to get your times, you're going to get all of that. Team-wise, it just depends. You can have a team of 5, you can have a team of 7. It just kind of varies, right? It varies along the line. The way the teams score, it's like golf. Okay, so first place, if you get a teammate that gets first place, you get 1 point. You get second place, you get 2 points. Third place, 3 points, so and so. So if you get 20, if you come in like 29th place, you get 29 points. And then the team with the least amount of points ends up winning.
Okay, so the lowest score is what you want.
So like let's say if you have teams of 5, a perfect score, meaning you swept the top 5 spots, you would have a score of 15 as a team. So that would be your perfect score as far as a team of 5. Exactly.
Okay, I did it. I got it.
That's how that would work right there.
Okay.
Now,
so then
moving on,
it really shows though
the teams that move on. I'm sorry?
No, I said it really shows though, like how much of a team sport that really is, because you might have, the 2 fastest times, but then you might have 2 runners that are running way, way, way at the bottom, and then it kind of averages out at the end. You really got to make sure throughout the whole team, you guys are trying to do your best to keep those times down. So that's interesting.
Oh yeah, definitely. And so times are more so for your, for your personal record for the individual part of the sport, whereas the placement is really for your team, so and it's also for you as well. And because also moving forward towards district, this is not really like track where it's either top three or top four in each event. The top three finishers, so you'll see all the teams here, top three, move on. And then as far as individuals moving on, it's the top 10 not on a top three team. If I have that correct, I believe that's what, because I had to
Okay,
look it up
wait,
just
say that
to be
again.
sure, and that's from what I read.
It's the
So
what?
so for example, so for the teams, it's the top three, and then for the
Okay.
individual, it's the top 10 not already on a team that made it through. So like
Oh,
perfect
okay, okay,
example
okay.
right here on this slide right here. Let's jump right into the results right here. For girls results, District 1-4A, you had Camila Luna out of Riverside taking that top place spot with a 1425. You had Kim Castro also out of Riverside taking the 1425 point 40 at second place, and in third place you had Paula Tapia also from Riverside with a 1514. So Riverside sweeping those top three spots, and Riverside ends up getting the first place district champs. Riverside out of District 1-4A with a score 21. Austin comes in second with a 59, and Irvin comes in third with a 63. So right here, Ryan, to explain what I was saying earlier, if there was a runner, sorry, I was trying to come up with the word, a runner from a different school. So in this district, let's say Bowie, right? Bowie's the one
Mhm.
that was the odd one out that didn't make it. You had a Bowie get fourth place. That runner's gonna go by themselves onto regionals without the team. So they're going
Okay.
to compete individually at the regional meet in that sense, just like that, right? So, but right here, like Camila, Kim, and Paula, even though they got first, second, and third, they're automatically going because Riverside got that first place spot. So they're going with Riverside automatically. So they're not in the top 10 individual runners going, if that makes any sense.
Cool. Now I get it. Now, honestly, I didn't know that before, so
So
now I
yeah,
understand how it
yeah.
works. Okay.
Mhm. Yeah, so out of each one of these events, out of each one of these district races, you're gonna have the top three teams going, plus you're gonna have a top 10 teams. And there's a few of these where you're gonna see a couple of names in there that their team didn't make it, but they made it because they made the top three or top 10 per se, right? So we got a lot of competition moving forward going into regional. So this is your girls district 1-4A results right here. Riverside once again taking the top spot there. Riverside, your class 1-4 district champs in cross country this year. Now for the girls results, it is the same. River ends up taking the out of there as a team with a score of 32. Austin takes number two at 36-3. So those are your three teams heading off to regionals come next week. For the boys' results, you have Jesus Herrera, one of those I was just mentioning. His team didn't make it, but he made it for getting that first place spot. So shout out to Jesus out of Harmony with a 1731. You had Nathaniel Delgado Rodriguez out of Austin with an 1837. And then you had Kevin Perez out of Riverside with a 1909 taking that third place spot. So right here, Ryan, just like I said, Jesus Herrera will be taking that one of those individual spots going into regionals next week. Be traveling with his team, going as an individual
Mm.
into that regional meet.
Okay. Well, that makes sense.
And so, congrats, Riverside, both boys.
Yeah.
So,
Go
congrats
Rangers. Go
for both
Rangers.
boys and girls. And yes, sir. Now for District 2-4A girls results, you had What a surprise. Sanelli taking that district championship for the girls with a score of 18. Young Women's Leadership Academy gets the second place spot with a score of 56, and Clint gets that third place spot. So those are your three moving on. Sanelli getting the district championship out of that one. Individual results, you had first place Kylie Pardo out of Sanelli with a 13:55. You had Caitlin Montoya also out of Sanelli with a 13:55. And you had Jeanette Rivera out of the Young Women's Leadership Academy with a 14:10. So shout out to those girls. Shout out to all the teams that compete. Sanelli is your girls District 2 4A champs.
Man, this like it really confuses me sometimes when I look at the districts and stuff, because how they change from volleyball to basketball to football to even cross country. One 4A is certain
Yeah.
teams in this sport, but in this sport,
It,
one 4A is this, and I got to start learning this stuff. Let's go on.
I know. To me, that it kind of reminds me. For me, it kind of reminds me how college is. Some sports that are Division 1 basketball, but
Yeah,
then
but
that
then they
same
play.
school they have a Division 2 football team.
Yeah, exactly. I get it.
Exactly. Yeah. Boys with District 2 4A results. You have Sanelli again. Surprise, surprise. Your district champs out of the 4A boys with a score of 15. You had Fabens with a score of 57 coming in second, and Valle Verde Early College with a score of 77 coming in third place. Number
Wow.
one, of
Okay.
course, we've said his name all year, Chris Moreno out of Sanelli getting 1720. You had Julian Guerra out of Sanelli as well with a 1734. And you had Edward Roberto Gonzalez out of Mountain View High School with a 1741. Edward going on as an individual to the regional meet. Congrats to the Sanelli boys and girls for stepping it up and taking both districts, the District 2 4A championships. Now moving on to District 1 5A. I are your girls 1 5A district champions with a score of 36. Canotillo coming in second with also a score of 6. So that one I was trying to find out as to if they're showing that district title. Is it El Paso High based off of time or something? I couldn't really find out. So these are the results I have.
I,
Once I find that out, I will,
I
you know,
mean, I don't know, but I would assume like maybe the tiebreaker is who had the
yeah.
runners that placed like lower. Like
That's what I
I,
was assuming, but I honestly couldn't find. Yeah, I mean, I honestly could not find where it was where I could find that out. I'm gonna ask around and
does it go
see
football
what.
style and you do a coin flip or
But
something?
yeah, these right, that'd be awesome. Chapin coming in third place with a score of 57. Congrats to El Paso High girls taking the district championship. In first place, you had Gianni Correa from Chapin
Apin.
with a 1936. You had Natalie from Canotiki with a 2016, and Nevai Escobedo out of Canotillo with a 2038. Those are your first, second, and third place individual. Again, congrats to El Paso girls with the District 1-5A champions. For the boys District 1-5A championship, taking the top place spot, your boys El Paso High School District 1-5A champions in cross country. No, they got a score of 26. Canotillo with a score of 60 takes the second place spot, and Chapin takes the third place spot with a score of 69. Miles Westbrook, we've spoken about him before many times, led his team to that championship, gets the first place spot of 1621. You had Leo Valenzuela getting a 1632, and you had Matthew Guerra out of with a 1637. So shout out to El Paso boys and girls, your District 1-5A champions. Moving on to District 2-5A. You have let me see here. What happened here? Oh, there we go. Girls District 25A. Hanks are your girls District 25A champions. That was one of those teams,
Yeah.
Ryan. I told you we're kind of sleeping, and they might be one of the ones to come up
And
around district and
hey, and
upset or whatever,
I
and
told you,
be
Jerry.
out there.
I told you too. I spoke with Coach Doak at Hanks, and she had mentioned that she
Mhm.
changed some things around, and I believe they started 4 freshmen in that district meet.
Wow.
Over even some juniors and stuff that were moved down to the open bracket. But yeah, 4 freshmen that helped lead this Hanks girls team to that district title. So, Hanks might be somebody to be looking out for in the upcoming years.
Oh yeah, I mean especially if the majority of your team is freshmen. Yeah, that's an understatement. Something to look out for if they're winning the dips. And this was like midway through the season when they started turning this around. So that's congrats to Hanks girls winning the District 25A championship in cross country. They scored a 23. Bel Air scored a 55 for second place, and Horizon scored a 63 for third. For your individual results, you had Valeria Lu Kung out of Del Valle with a 21:30. You had Destiny Loesa out of Hanks with a 21:45, and Elizabeth Aguirre out of Hanks with a 21:55. Valeria's one of those that's going to be moving on individually to the regional. So congrats to all of these competitors, and congrats to Hanks girls cross country. Moving on to the boys' results for the District 2 5A. You had Bel Air as your district champs coming out with a
Okay.
52. Del Valle at second place with a 61. And Hanks coming in third place at a 62. So Hanks kind of struggled a little there, but they will be joining the girls' teams moving on to regionals. In your first place spot for the individual, you had Michael Gastonera out of Parkland with a 17-19. We've talked about him a few times before, so look out for him to do big things moving forward individually. Efren Moncada will be joining his teammates out of Parkland with a 17-30, got second place, and Alejandro Tarin out of Hanks with an 18 flat. So congrats to all those runners, to those two Parkland runners who will be
So,
joining each other moving forward. A
so
big
Jerry,
congrats to Bel Air for the district champion. Hmm.
so this is what you were mentioning then. You've got, you know, top two runners in this one with both from Parkland. And even though they were top two placement finishers, that means the rest of their team must have placed so far down that it pushed them out of being a top three
Yeah,
contender. So they wouldn't be taking their whole team.
exactly. So right there, right off the bat, they scored 3 points for their team, but the rest of the team, like you said, probably fell back in the pack,
Mhm.
and they weren't able to get that get the top three spots, for as a team as a whole. And Bel Air, I mean, right there, they just did well enough to get as a team that district championship spot for the team. Michael getting the individual champion right there. So that's congrats to all of them. But that just shows how this is a big team sport, as well as the individual aspect part of it. Even though you may have the top runner in the state or the city or the nation or however you want to say it, the rest of the team still's gotta pull them
Pull their
and
weight.
keep up, because yeah, you may have the first and second place spot, but it shows right there you're not gonna that's to pull you into the top three. But again, congrats to Bel Air for the boys district 2 5A champions. Moving on to District 1A, this was one of
Wow.
the big ones. Uh, a little bit of a surprising results, but not really, because all of these teams and these girls we've been talking about. But congrats to Franklin, the girls Franklin team. We talked about since the beginning of the year. They're a threat to be reckoned with. They take the district champs for the teams with a score of 26. Eastwood coming in second with a score of 57, and Pebble Hills coming in third with a score of 89. all three teams will be going on to regionals. Franklin is your district champs. Out of that, for the individuals, you had Adeline Rodriguez out of Eastwood with a score of 19-10. Emily Orr takes second place out of Franklin with 19-20, and Cassandra Jimenez out of Montwood or 19-2. Uh, but again, their team, with the exception of Montwood, Cassandra will be going on individually right there. So big congrats to her. She can. I personally thought she was the big front runner here, and just I don't know, something. I guess something happened where she kind of fell back behind, but she will be moving on to the regionals. And congrats to Franklin and congrats to Adeline Rodriguez, your district champs for the girls 1-6A, the championship. Boys 1-6A championship.
Oh.
You had number one Franklin taking the championship spot for with a score of 27. You had Eastwood with a score of 58 taking second, and Coronado taking your third place spot with a score of 62. Congrats to boys and girls Franklin. They swept the district for the championship. Number one, Omer Ibrahim out of Pebble Hills. We spoke about him all year long. A time of 15:53 takes your first place spot. He is the individual district champ. Yeah, Luis Pastor out of Coronado with a 16:03 taking second place, and Diego Flores out of Franklin with a 16:09. So Pebble Hills did not go as a team, but Ibrahim will be going on his own individually to the regionals, taking that first place spot. And but big shout out to Franklin boys and girls District 1-6A champions, and congrats to all the district champs out there. This was a great competitive season. I mean, we followed it since the beginning. I be 100% honest, this is the first fully followed and got invested into cross country, and it was really really fun. And I'm looking forward to see what they're moving forward next week into regionals. Before I move on, I just realized I did not put the scheduling for regionals just so everyone knows. So let me just look it up here. But the as far as these districts, Ryan, point at all. These runners all year long were competitive, and especially in the 6A, the top three were the three that we pretty much talked about all season long, and they're all within a time frame of each other. So I'm really looking forward moving into regionals how these teams and these individuals are going to compete against each other, and then against the regional teams, and then against the state. And like I said, Ryan, we could have a good year in cross country with multiple state champions, team wise and individual
Mhm.
wise. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I think throughout the entire cross country season, I think it's really preached how consistent these teams and individual runners have been, because I think for the most part, without even actually seeing results, you and I could have predicted, most of these teams that are advancing and most of the
Mhm.
runners that are advancing, because it's same ones that we've seen week in and week out competing, doing what they got to do. We've seen Franklin, we've seen Eastwood competing, we knew Sanelli, we had seen these teams advancing, so there wasn't a whole lot of huge shockers and surprises going into these district results. So I think that just shows how good that they've been. And I think if they keep that consistency going up, I don't know necessarily how well we're going to compete in a team level and, at the state and regional level, but I definitely do think we have some very good individual runners in there that are going to make their staple. I have a question for you though, Jerry, too. What about the boys out at Tornillo? Did they run, or did they not
You know
do
what? I
district?
did. I'm glad you brought that. I'm glad you brought that up. I almost forgot. I could not find. I will look and I will release those results. I did not see a 3A district meet
Uh-huh.
results. And I could not find. So I am not too sure what happened there. They hadn't really posted it. I'll actually look up right now as we continue the show, to see, hopefully they've updated it by this time, because sometimes what I've noticed also becoming a cross country fan this year is some of these meets and some of these, coaches or whatever, whoever posts up the results, they delay them sometimes, and sometimes the results don't come out till Monday. After
Well,
we've already filmed the show and after a lot of people have about it. So
and then
hopefully they update it from now
y-
before we're done.
yeah, and then the district results too for like schools like Tornillo. I mean, there's nobody in their district that's even like remotely
Exactly.
close to here. So when they're competing for their district
Exactly.
or their
So
championships, I'm sure they're out of town somewhere. So
mhm.
we'll get those, and as soon as we do, and
Yeah.
like I
So
said, when I go into the volleyball stuff, if you end up coming across the how those runners did, Daniel
mhm.
Romero and all that, we let us know so we can continue with that.
Yeah, so I'll continue checking. So if those of you watching us, if you continue to see me looking down, that's what I'm going to be doing. I'll be trying to see if we have those results. But moving on, real quick, I just brought them up. So Monday, October 24th. Okay, so a week from today, pretty much. So in 1 week, you will have your regional meet in Lubbock. Okay, so you will have the regionals out there for all your classifications, it looks like. And then I'll just get it out here now. On Saturday, November 5th in Round, Texas, excuse me, that'll be your state meet. So by the beginning of November, we will have state champs. So just 2 more weeks, 3 more weeks left in this cross country season, and it's done. Very, very fun. But already, right now, this is the first step is district. And once again, congrats to all these district champs. And once again, that is October 24th. It will be your regional meet out in Lubbock. And on Saturday, November 5th, your state meet out in Round Rock, Texas.
All right.
Moving on to our cross country soaring seven. So for this soaring seven, Ryan, I did a little something special here because I thought it was fitting. So obviously, we have all our districts. Number one, you got Riverside. Two, you got Sanelli, all boys and girls. Three, you had El Paso boys and girls. Four, you had the Hanks girls, your district champs. Five, Bel Air boys, district champs. And six, Franklin boys and girls, district champs. So as a team, they pulled it all together, and those are your district champs. They are our top six for our starting seven. For our last spot, and
Mm-hmm.
I just want you all to really look out for these individuals, because I put these individuals not because they will be going forward, you know, with their teams or not to the regionals, but I want to just shout out Jesus Herrera out of Harmony, the Young Women's Leadership Academy, and Jeanette Rivera, and the Valle Verde Early College High School. I want to shout out all three of those schools and those two individuals because these are teams, like we mentioned, we did not even know before we started doing certain coverages that they were part of certain districts, athlete athletics wise here in El Paso. And these schools are very, I mean, you know just as well as I do, Ryan. We coached at a private school like Cathedral. We've worked in that environment, and it's really, really tough when you have such a small school with such a limited amount of students and of athletic, I can't see I can't seem to get the word out, but just to find those athletes that constantly win you district championships year in and year out.
Mm-hmm.
When you see schools like this, Harmony and the Valle Verde Early College High School,
Oh, I think Jerry might have skipped out
the
there for a
Young
minute.
Women's Leadership
Uh,
Academy, and Valle Verde Early College High. Oh, hang on.
Jerry, you're skipping out a little bit
Okay.
there, man. We probably missed like the last like 30 seconds of what you tried to say.
Wow, right in the middle of my perfect speech. What I was
I know,
saying,
right?
Ryan, was that, shout out to these smaller schools that are actually, doing big things, being in a smaller environment, not having the same facilities as these other schools, big schools do that are, non, that the public schools, if you want to say. So, I mean,
Mhm.
just these shout out to all these schools here doing the big things, and that's what I wanted to hear. So those are your soaring seven for this week. Congrats to all your district champs out of cross country. This was a little bit longer cross country segment today, but hey, it was worth it, and I really look forward to watching these kids really ball out and get noticed out there at regionals.
Awesome, Jerry. And so I
Okay,
guess I'll go ahead and get right into the
I
swing of
apologize.
things.
I'm having all sorts of
All right. Well, I'm gonna go
no,
right into
I'm
the swing of
sorry.
things.
Just
Everything good on your end, Jerry? If not, I'm gonna go right into the swing of things. And
looks
Jerry,
like it.
once you
All
figure
right.
out, yeah, once you figure out your technical difficulties, yeah, just get ready to hop on. So we're gonna go right into the volleyball recap, and I just want to mention out that our volleyball recap is sponsored by Raymond A. Lerma Photography and Homegrown Photography from Bridget Armendariz. Okay, uh, great members of the Prep One team and proud sponsors of the Prep One podcast and our volleyball recap segment. So lots of games this week, a lot of games, a lot of competition going on, and a lot of district play implications. So we're gonna run down the scoreboard. I'm not gonna go through every single game because, as you can see, there's like 32 games that went on last week. But some of the big ones that I might want to mention, the third game right there, you've got the Eastlake Falcons taking on Mountwood Rams on Tuesday. Eastlake Falcons end up winning that game 3-1. And to me, what was a little bit of a shocker for the Mountwood Rams because I thought Mountwood was really on the come up this year. One that really kind of took me by surprise was the fact that the El Paso High Tigers apparently left their broomsticks at home. Um, I'm looking at it, and you see, you see El Paso High Tigers winning that one, which I think most of us expected, but I don't think any of us expected that one to go to 5 sets. So 3-2 El Paso Tigers over the Jefferson Silver Foxes. Maybe a little bit of a scare for the Tigers. I don't know exactly what would happen. Coronado continuing to sweep their district. They
Yeah.
win against El Dorado 3-0. Fabens getting the big district win over Riverside, 3-1. Pebble Hill Spartans rolling, sweeping the Socorro Bulldogs. San Elizario gets a big win over the Clint Lions. Del Valle Conquistadores sweeping the Horizon Scorpions. And the Eastwood Troopers getting a big win over America's 3-0. And Eastwood's been one of those teams that's been steadily creeping back up the rankings, keeping back up the district. Going on, you have Hanks, who's running over District 1-5A Division. I think it's Division 2, Division 1, the big school district. They're up 3-0 on the Bel Air Highlanders. Isleta Indians took care of business against the Parkland Matadors, who've been having a tough season all year when it comes to volleyball. Just haven't really been able to get it together. Burgess Mustangs took care of business against the Chapin Huskies, 3-0. The Andress Eagles go ahead and defeat the Canutillo Eagles 3-1. And Franklin Cougars, Eastlake Falcons in another big District 1-6A battle. In that game, it ends up going Franklin Cougars in 5 sets, winning 3-2. Franklin Cougars end up taking that one. Another one in District 1-4A, Clint Lions and the Fabens Wildcats also going the distance, 5 sets. Clint Lions come up with that one, 3-2. Eastwood Troopers get another big win, 3-0 over Socorro Bulldogs. One thing we need to start paying attention to is that the Eastwood Troopers, though, are going to be having some issues in regards to their coach, Jerry. I don't know if you saw any of the tweets are going on by like Felix Chavez, but I do hear
Mhm.
that Eastwood Troopers volleyball coach has, I guess, some sort of, I don't know if they temporarily relieved the duties or what's going on, but there are some issues going on there in regards to the coach. So hopefully the ladies, rebound around the team. They do what they got to do as a team, and, continue and try not to let these off the court distractions, ruin what they've been building. Um,
Oh yeah.
the Riverside Rangers, get that win over the Mountain View Lobos, which is good for their playoff hopes because they're kind of floating around that last seed. Hanks Knights took care of Horizon Scorpions. Uh, Another big, in my opinion, almost a shocker one too. The Mountwood Rams losing 5 sets to the Pebble Hill Spartans, and like I had mentioned, Mountwood was one of those teams that was really climbing. They have members of that team that have been in the Soaring Seven week after week, but were unfortunately unable to take care of business. And that kind of concludes our volleyball recap. Now going into our Prep One podcast, Soaring Seven, proudly sponsored by Raise Up the Bar, and Peach Wave Frozen Yogurt and Gelato. Prep One's podcast, Soaring Seven. For the last week, you have Isleta's Crystal Espinosa, 7 aces, 29 digs, and 2 assists in a win over Parkland. Number 2, you have Andrus's Leslie Mojica, 28 digs, 21 kills, 5 assists. 5 aces, 4 assists, and a win over Canutillo. She did pretty much everything she could to lead that team in a big win over the Canutillo Eagles. Eastlake's Alexis Briseño, 52 assists and 5 digs in a win over Mountwood. Eastwood's Madison Hernandez at number 4, 41 assists, 12 digs, and 2 kills in a win over Americas. And then you have Franklin's Hannah Finn, 30 assists, 21 digs, and 4 aces in a win over Eastlake. Number 6, you have the Pebble Hills, Ariana's Helbling, and she's been on this list many times before with 63 assists, 6 digs in a win over the Mountwood Rams. And finally, rounding out the Prep One's Soaring 7, you have Burgess's Annabelle Martinez with 8 kills, 13 digs, and 2 aces in a win over the Chapin Huskies. Looking at our volleyball standings in District 148 Division 1, you have Irvin now on top of that district. You have the Young Women's STEAM Research Academy, who was previously ranked in our top 10 and doing well, but they unfortunately let 2 slip by them. They fall to number 2 in district. Number 3, Austin, Bowie at 4th place, and then Harmony Science Academy at 5th place. In District 148 Division 2, you have Clint on top of that district with a 4-1 record, but Fabin's right behind him at 4-2. San Elizario at 3-2, and I had mentioned this earlier. Riverside 1-4, getting that 1 district win over the Mountain View Lobos, and that's going to be one that might carry them into the playoffs. Mountain View is rounding out that district, and Young Women Leadership Academy technically in last place, but they are not playing their season right now, so that's why they only have that 0-2 record at the moment. District 158 Division 1, kind of what we've all expected. All El Paso High got a perfect 12-0 record in District 158, even though they had a little bit of a scare against against Jefferson last week. Burgess coming in at number 2 at 10-2, and they seem to be like they will be the top 2 playoff seeds in the district. Number 4, third place seed is Jefferson at 6-6 and Andrus at 4-8. Technically, with 2 games or so left to play, you could see Chapin, you could see Canutillo playing their way back into contention if Andrus does not at least win one more, and Andrus might even be able to get into that 3rd seed depending on how things play out in the next coming weeks. District 158 Division 2. Hanks all over that district, a perfect 7-0. Isleta 6-1 in 2nd place, and pretty much it seems like they are the 2 solidified choices at 1 and 2. Looking back, then you got Del Valle and Bel Air at 3-3 and 3-4, and again, those 2 could kind of flip flop either way. For the most part, it does already kind of seem playoff implications have been set for the district. You don't really have Horizon or Parkland really showing that they can get back into playoff contention, especially with the way the district records show. Finally, in volleyball standings, District 1-6A, our biggest district, most competitive district that we've seen all year. Coronado, obviously leading the district, 12-0 record, followed closely by the Eastwood Troopers with an 11-2 record. I believe those two losses coming to Coronado. And then if you look at it, you got Franklin at 8-5, you got Mountwood at 8-5, Pebble Hills at 7-7, and Eastlake at 7-7. So really, you've got the last two playoff seeds, seed 3 and 4, and you've got Franklin, Mountwood, Pebble Hills, and Eastlake all separated by one win. So this is one of those that I'm telling you is going to be huge playoff implications this week. Like I said, 1 and 2 seeds pretty much solidified, Coronado, Eastwood, but that 3 and 4 seed could be anybody's game. Really depends on these district wins coming up. It's going to be an exciting district play with the 1-6A as far as volleyball is concerned. Looking at our top 10, going at it, based off of our results, we have Coronado at number 1, which is kind of what we've all expected. They've been one pretty much most of the season, and until somebody beats them, they're not going to fall. Same situation with El Paso High. We mentioned they had a perfect 12-0 record in district, and currently, once again, number 2. Number 3 is the Eastwood Troopers. Number 4, Franklin Cougars. Number 5, the Pebble Hill Spartans. Number 6, Mountwood Rams. And, with those big losses this week to Pebble Hills and other district members, I think it was Eastlake, they're going to be dropping in the rankings. Number 7 is Burgess. 8, Hanks. Number 9, Irvin. And looking in at number 10, Loretto finally makes their debut in the top 10 by taking care of business week in and week out. Right? They've been flirting with the looking in, for a couple weeks now, and they finally got in. Now looking in, you got Isleta, Jefferson, and Clint. But shout out to the private school right there, number 10, Loretto. Was it the Loretto Angels, Jerry? Is that what it is?
Yes, sir. It's the Loretto Angels.
All righty. Let's see. Going
Sister
on.
School of Cathedral.
Now going into our volleyball previews for next week. We have before we actually go into the previews, let me mention our sponsors. So you got Chris Morales Photography and SJE Photography sponsoring our volleyball preview segment. Wanted to jump the gun there a little bit without giving a shout out to our sponsors. Once again, lots of games, lots of implications. We're just going to go through the list and see what are some of the big games. El Paso Tigers, Burgess Mustangs. Big game, more so just for bragging rights. Like I said, the playoff seedings have pretty much kind of solidified themselves. If somehow Burgess can get this win, this could help them creep up, but it's really been kind of solidified. Andress Eagles, Jefferson Silver Foxes. That is a big game right there because that could flip-flop between 3rd and 4th place in that district. Just kind of depends which team comes out to play, but that's definitely going to be one of our games to watch. Tuesday, 6:30 p.m., Andress Eagles at the Jefferson Silver Foxes. Coronado takes on the America's Trailblazers on Tuesday night. I'm assuming that's going to be another easy win by Coronado, just by the way they've been on the ball this year. Fabens Wildcats take on the Mountain View Lobos. Riverside Rangers taking on the San Elizario Eagles. Let's see, going down the list, Pebble Hill Spartans and the Franklin Cougars, another big game to look out for on Tuesday night. I did mention there's about 4 teams fighting for playoffs, seed 3 and 4, and this could be one of those. Like I said, these are 2 of those 4 teams that are fighting for those playoff spots, so that's a big game. Eastwood Troopers and the Mountwood Rams. Eastwood's got a lot, floating over them right now with the issues going on with the head coach. And you got Mountwood, who suffered 2 losses last week, but is fighting for their playoff hopes. So they come up with a big win with the distracted Eastwood. This could really help their playoff contention. So that's one to definitely look out for. The Hanks Knights and the Del Valle Conquistadores. Hanks has kind of been on top of the district all year long, but Del Valle has been rolling as of recent. So that might be another game to watch out for. Bel Air, Parkland. Parkland, again, like I had said, has been kind of struggling all year long, so that's going to be a tough one. Canutillo Eagles and the Chapin Huskies will be doing battle. Going on, you have the East Lake Falcons and the Pebble Hill Spartans. East Lake had a big upset last week over Mountwood. And again, several teams fighting for those last four playoff seats. So this is going to be big when it comes to playoff implications. Pebble Hill Spartans are really going to be looking to get that win if they're going to try to help their playoff seeding. Canutillo Eagles, Jefferson Silver Foxes, another big game in regards to playoff seeding. Let's see if any of those, Jeff needs to get that win to boast them back into, or to keep them in a top three playoff seed. So it kind of just depends how they come out and how they're ready to play. Some more games on the volleyball schedule coming out Friday night. You have the Mountwood Rams taking on the El Dorado Aztecs. This should be a game that Mountwood can win and should help them to get that, win and hopefully improve that record in hopes of fighting for those playoff seedings. Big matchup Friday night. You have the Franklin Cougars and the Eastwood Troopers. That's going to be a big one going on right there. And then you have the Del Valle Conquistadores, Isleta Indians, Austin Panthers, Irvin Rockets, and finally the Burgess Mustangs and the Andress Eagles. A lot of stuff going on in the as far as the volleyball world is concerned. But again, like I mentioned, we're right in the heat of things, and this is going to be big when it comes to, district rivalries and playoff standings and those types of things. Jerry, I gotta get something handled really quickly. Can you go ahead and start the football segment?
Of course I can, Mr. Ryan. Of course I can. So moving on into personally our favorite segment of the show, we have football. And today football is going to be brought to you by Big O Photos. Get that right up here. Big O Photos and Daniel Romero Photography. Shout out to them for sponsoring the segment. So here's our football recap of last week. We had a lot of good games. For us personally, we were at Fabens Mountain View. Hopefully Ryan will get back on right now. We could both talk about a little bit. And sorry for all the technical difficulties. We will get that fixed. And so here we go. We have Bowie over Irvin, 28-21. That game going to be pretty much of a blowout for Bowie, but Irvin and made it a game. We were pretty much listening to it like throughout the night, and that I believe Bowie really was kind of struggling a little bit, but Bowie pulls out the win 28-21 over the Irvin Rockets. And I heard it was a really good game out there, Ryan.
Yeah. I actually, it was one of those games that I was actually thinking Irvin was gonna maybe even pull this one off. They had that big win against the El Paso High Tigers. They played Riverside good for about a half before, Riverside just unloaded on them. So, they feel like they've got some pieces and they're building on things, but it looks like Bowie just had a little too much going in their run game. And that's really what made the difference in that one. In a good district battle, but, the Bowie Bears came out on top there.
Oh, yeah.
I'll get the next one. The Eastwood Troopers, not too much to say. Socorro Bulldogs, unfortunately, they're stuck in Class 6A, and it's just the struggles are going to continue. There's a lot that they got to figure out. This game was honestly over at halftime. You had most of the starters pulled in the second half, and Eastwood just ran away with this one, 59-7.
Oh yeah, and I mentioned it earlier, Ryan. Socorro's one of those teams that pretty much knows that there's no postseason already. So right now they're really playing for pride right now. And Eastwood is one of those teams actually that is really playing to make sure that they solidify one of those last four spots in the district. So for them, literally right now, every game matters, depending on where they want to end up at the end of the season. They're one of the top teams for a reason, but they still got a little bit of a fight left to get through. The next one we have Eldorado versus Americas. This was a game to watch. It was a game out at the SAC, so it was a 4 o'clock game. So unfortunately, not a whole lot of people were able to be out there to watch it. But Americas comes out with the win, 49-42 over El Dorado. And this one was a big game for both of these schools, because this was also another big playoff implication for these two schools in the 6A. It's not too good for Colorado moving forward with that loss, but Americas is one more step solidifying themselves in that playoff uh, con- uh, contention for those last four spots.
Yeah, and really, you got to give a lot of credit to the El Dorado Aztecs, man. Starting a freshman running back, and you got his older brother, senior quarterback Quincy Estrada. They really did what they needed to do. It was a back and forth game. We were checking the score updates, and it was touchdown for touchdown, touchdown for touchdown. It really
Mhm.
kind of made you feel like this game was going to be won by whoever had the ball last. And in this
Mhm.
case, America's really kept the ball last, and they did what they had to do. But great District 6A matchup. And it's been fun, man. It's fun where you get to see all these
Oh
District
yeah.
6A games being close like that.
And one thing real quick, Ryan, shout out to El Dorado, to their freshman running back, the younger Estrada.
Oh,
I don't know if you
that's
heard
right.
about this.
Hmm.
Exact getting as a freshman, getting his first D1 offer from UTSA Roadrunner. So congratulations to him on that as a freshman. That's huge. So it's gonna be real fun to see what he has in him for the rest of the season and for the next 3 seasons. We'll see. This is just the sky's the limit for this kid.
Yeah, yeah. Shout out Ray Ray. It's great. Ray Estrada doing his thing, and they're only going to keep rolling in from this point on, man. I mean, that's kind of how it works, especially once the D1s
Hmm.
get a word of you. Takes one or two programs to start offering, especially when you're this young, and
Yep.
they just start piling in each year. They roll in and roll in. So good for him. Next game on the list is
Yep.
the one that I was out covering with the ESPN 600 El Paso Football
Yes.
Friday nights. It was the Pecos Eagles and the Fabens Wildcats, and and a funny one where that I don't know if
Hmm.
it was who was it that said it was. I think it was Paul McKinnon had mentioned, or whoever it was that mentioned during the game. It was a battle of which team. I mean, no team really wanted to win this game. Is what it really felt like. Is from what you and I saw. Both teams, were having struggles on offense, and then when they would drive it in, they'd get into the red zone and they'd commit a turnover. Both teams had possessions, inside the
Oh yeah.
10-yard line, and capped off with an interception in the end zone, a fumble in the end zone, a turnover after turnover, and it was one of those where really it could have been either. It could have went either way. Fabians had their chances to win this
Yeah.
game, and unfortunately, they could not capitalize. And a lot of it, I think, was attributed to the fact when running back as an Isaac Urrutia went down in the fourth
Hmm.
quarter, they changed their whole style of offense. They went from ground and pound to air it out, and I think that might have been their downfall. I think had they stuck with it, with the ground and pound, they didn't need to do anything fancy. They just needed to get a couple of yards because if you recall, they ended up throwing that pick the very play after Urrutia went out of the game. It was one play later that they go
Oh
and they
yeah.
throw it out, and from that point, it was when it was turnover city back
Hmm.
and forth by both teams. Uh, Unfortunately, Pecos got the better end of the stick in this one, and they ended up running away with it, 16-14.
Yeah, and fortunately for both these teams, it's just been a year of struggles.
Mhm.
So I mean, it wasn't a game that you looked for playoff and district implications in it. They're in a very tough district with Fort Stockton, Monahans, Mountain View included. So
Clint.
both these teams struggling, Clint, and we'll get into that right now. But that it's a very tough district. So both these teams kind of struggling, and they're on the low of that district, unfortunately. But you said it perfect, Ryan. It was just the turnovers killed both teams, but it was kind of like they were trading it, and so I mean, there's nothing else you can say, unfortunately. But they got a lot to work on, and hopefully maybe next year, it'll be a different story.
Yeah. We can kind of just run past this one. For San Buffaloes, Anthony Wildcats,
Mhm.
37-0. I didn't hear much about the game. I couldn't really be able to tell you any kind of
Yeah.
feedback, but that was a tough loss by the Anthony Wildcats. This was a big one though. Mountain View Lobos, Clinton Lions in a District 1-4A matchup. Again, playoff seeding implications on the line. And this was one where early on in the game, it felt like Clinton Lions were just running away with this game. I think it was 28-7 or something. And maybe into the third quarter. And then all of a sudden, it was like a flip flop of the script. And Mountain View started, inching their way back. And they just didn't have enough fuel in the tank to get that last point to tie it up there.
Yeah.
Did you have any other comments to say on this one?
Oh, yeah. I mean that this one, honestly, I personally, because I've seen Mountain View play, and I thought Mountain View just this year they really have a lot of weapons offensively and defensively, and so I thought is also another team that is struggling. So I thought Mountain View was really gonna not run away with this game, but be the victors. But Clint, shout out to Clint coming out on top, 28-27. I mean, it was a close game, and this is one of those games that the score really represents how the game was, because like you said, we were listening to it where it was going back and forth. Clint really had looked like they had the lead going, and Mountain View started coming back. So I mean that's another fun one right there. You're looking at two possible playoff teams out of that 4A district right there.
Yep. Going on, you got the Riverside Rangers, San Elizario Eagles. It's kind of feels like it's one of those when the Rangers are
Mhm.
coming, it's like you kind of feel bad for whatever
Yeah.
team it may be. And keep this in mind, man. This is also without Riverside's starting quarterback and
Mhm.
athlete, Angel Speedy Munoz, who's got 3 D1 offers already on the year. Still out. I believe it's concussion protocol, so likely we'll see him
Yeah.
play next week against the Austin Panthers. But even
It
without Speedy Munoz, quarterback Ian Monteon fills in and has done a great job. I think he threw, 3 or 4 touchdown passes in this game. You also got weapons like Adrian Estrada, Jose Guadardo, Tristan Lopez, and it's just,
Mhm.
you got to pick your poison, and it's just tough for them. Riverside Rangers 51-6, and not too much to say about this one. Next week's going to be definitely the game where we're going to see exactly how good they are in the district when they play Austin.
Oh yeah, definitely. That's gonna. I think personally, that's gonna be your number one and number two spot game. That battle for that district title right there for between
Uh,
Riverside and Austin. So we'll see.
Yeah, another big game in District 1-6A. You had the East Lake Falcons taking on the Franklin Cougars. East Lake Falcons have that tough defense that they've had all year, but young quarterback Luke Lomalee, offensive struggles were kind of key in this one, and you got the Franklin Cougars with that quarterback receiver combo with Chase Smith and Bo. Was it Bo Sparks? Was that
Both
what it is? Bo Sparks?
Sparks.
Yeah, Bo
Hmm.
Sparks,
Both Sparks.
doing what they got to do, and they let it be known in this game in a tough district matchup. But Franklin Cougars 26-12. Um, Honestly, probably was not what I was going to predict, just because I felt like Eastlake was kind of on the come up. But I'll give it to him. Franklin Cougars, great work on this one and
Yeah.
great district win, much needed.
Oh yeah, much needed. I mean, aside from that one little flub up a couple of weeks back, with Franklin, Franklin, is really that powerhouse to be reckoned with. They did lose to Centennial, I believe it was at the beginning of the year, but Centennial is also a team that's not one to be reckoned with. They're I
That's a
believe the
possible New
top team in the
Mexico's.
state, New
Yeah.
Mexico. So that's no nothing to say there. I mean that's not a bad loss there, but Franklin, I've been saying it all year. I look for Franklin to really be possible district champs out of this, and they kind of proved it against Eastlake this past Friday
Mhm.
night.
Chapin Huskies all over the
Uh,
Burgess Mustangs. And, Chapin's one of those teams that's really started to turn things around come district play because They had
Mhm.
struggles, all year. Injuries hit them. They didn't have a quarterback. They were finding who they could put, but they shuffled things around. Looks like they finally found their quarterback in freshman Deion Singleton, and he's kind of led them to the promised land these last 2 weeks against the Jefferson Silver Foxes and the Burgess Mustangs. They get that
And
40-7 victory, and that is
mhm.
big for playoff implications. So that's a big
Yeah,
one
and
looking up.
Chapin couldn't turn it around at such a perfect time because we talked about this last
Mhm.
couple of weeks ago. Last week, I touched on it on the show. District play is key. Doesn't matter what your non-district record is. Your district record is what gets you into the playoffs. And Chapin kind of took that to heart because they were right now. I believe they are 2-0 in district.
Yeah,
They're
and
undefeated in
winless.
district, but they only had one non-district win. So Chapin's turning it around right now. They're on a win streak. We'll see if they can keep it going next week. I believe they got Cano Theo next week, so we'll see. We'll see
Mhm.
how they can continue this success.
Yep. Another team, man, looking to
Uh,
get on the roll of
mhm.
things. The El Paso High Tigers and the Jefferson Silver Foxes. The Tigers kind of got some prayers answered with them because they got some players back from injury. Quarterback Jerry Chidas
Oh
finally
yeah,
made his debut back on the field after suffering an injury. I want to say what in the second week or so of play.
yeah.
As soon as they keep getting these players returning from injury, El Paso could get rolling. They got their starting running back, who's a big part of their offense too, that just needs to get healthy. And if he gets healthy at the right time, that might be what's needed because they've got this district win 21-15 over the Jefferson Silver Foxes. That means if they can pull off one win over the Burgess Mustangs, they'll get that playoff seed for the fourth seed in that district. And that Burgess Mustangs El Paso Tigers game could be a big one near the end of the year when they play.
No. Oh yeah, like we said, all of these games have playoff implications. So, I mean, shout out to El Paso. I mean, getting their guys back at the right time.
Mm-hmm. Canutillo Eagles against the Andress Eagles, and the Eagles come out victorious in this one. And that is the Eagles from Canutillo, that is, with quarterback LJ. I'm sorry, quarterback. I should say athlete, really, because he kind of does everything on the field. But we're going with running back LJ Martin leading the way. In a good one, Elias Duncan, Malcolm Anderson, they did what they needed to do to try to keep their team in this game. However, Canutillo Eagles just had too much going for them. Their defense was just too strong. Canutillo Eagles come out on top in this one, 49-20. And finally, in probably what was one of the games of the night, you had the Pebble Hill Spartans and the Mountwood Rams. This one was a great game, back and forth game. Pebble Hills, believe it or not, was struggling offensively. Quarterback Gael Ochoa was not getting a whole lot going through the air. Mountwood Rams, on the other hand, were lighting it up through the air. Mountwood has so many weapons offensively when it comes to the passing game. Diego Oaxaca, you have multiple receivers. One receiver goes down, you get one off the bench, and it's like they haven't skipped a beat. And they showed it in this game. It was a back and forth game, but ultimately, Kyle Ochoa said, if I'm not going to get it done through the air, I'm going to get it done in the ground game. And he gets a last second touchdown late in the game to pull, running it, by the way, to go ahead and pull the Pebble Hill Spartans over the Mountwood Rams by a score of 38-35. Another shout out to Jacob Ledesma, who kind of does a little bit of everything for the Pebble Hill Spartans, plays a little bit of receiver, tight end, running back, even goes in at quarterback, does it all. And, he's just one of those athletes that helped them in this win as well. Jerry, thanks for coming back and joining us again. I was just recapping
Yeah,
the Pebble
sorry
Hill
about that.
Spartan Mountwood Rams game. So it's up to you, man. Do you have anything you want to say before we move on from the Pebble Hill Spartans Mountwood game?
On the Pebble Hills Montwood game again, big playoff implications there. I truly believe it's going to come down to Franklin Pebble Hills for the top spot. That's a big game coming up this week. We'll get into those later. Like I
Not
said, and
not
I mean I'll say it again.
not if Eastwood has
N-
anything to say about it, man. They're gonna be up there too for contention.
Exactly. I mean that's the beauty of it. All of these schools right now, it really, you may or may not have your solidified spot, but now it depends where do you want to be. Do you want to be traveling that first game, or you want to be home that first game? That's a
Mhm.
big factor because, as we know, unfortunately, El Paso teams don't travel well. For whatever reason it is, El Paso teams don't travel well, and we end up getting,
Mhm.
demolished in that first round because we travel all the way out to Dallas or out to Midland or wherever, and unfortunately it doesn't pan out the way we usually want it. But these teams, when they are home, most majority of the time they are the victors. So I mean, that's all these games, big implications moving
Yeah.
forward.
And you know what, man? This is going to be one of those strange things this year because this is the first year that we could possibly not have a single team go on into the second round just because of the fact that we don't have any teams playing each other in the bi-district round of the playoffs. Everyone's going to be playing an out-of-town opponent, which is pretty cool in my opinion, just to
Hmm.
see everybody playing out-of-town teams. But it's a little scary when you think
Yeah.
about the fact that, in 1 week we could have everybody out. So it's going to be fun to watch. Um,
Oh yeah.
Next up, we're going to go through our Prep 1 footballs, a soaring 7. Uh, Proud sponsors of this segment. You got the My Design Sports Photography, and you got Rudy Davila Photography sponsoring our Prep 1 footballs, a soaring 7 segment. We'll go ahead and alternate on the soaring 7. Lots of great
Sounds
games, and
good.
this is even going to be the first soaring 7 that we've issued where we had somebody make the list that suffered a loss in the game, Jerry. So that's going to be an interesting one.
Oh,
Usually
okay.
we try to stick with, teams that won,
The
but
winners.
this one had, too good of performances where we just couldn't leave them out. Number 1, Stanford commit running back LJ Martin, 22 carries, 282 yards on the ground, rushing for 2 touchdowns, 1 reception for 38 yards, and a touchdown in a win over the Andress Eagles, a big district win, just solidifying why he is a Stanford running back product, D1 product. He did his thing, and you know what? He showed up, he balled out, and he got noticed. Go ahead and take number 2, man.
SPG. SPG, all these soaring sevens, SPG. And number 2, you got El Dorado QB Quincy Estrada. That was the one you were talking about there, Ryan.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, them on the losing end, but he still SPG'd. He went 11 for 14, 207 yards, 2 TDs, 22 carries for 250 yards, 4 TDs in All America. So CDs, for this one athlete right here. And I mean, what else can you say? I mean, the stats speak for themselves. He's the older one of the Estrada brothers. We just spoke about, his younger brother getting that D1 offer, and El Dorado really does have the athletes, but or every game counts. So we'll see if they'll end up in one of those. But it looks like it'll probably be either the fourth, probably a battle for that fourth place spot. With those top 3 spots almost solidified, just depending on who's going to be where.
Mhm.
But
Number
shout out to Quincy Estrada, doing big things, leading El Dorado there.
Cool, cool. Moving on, number 3 from Chapin High School, you have freshman quarterback Davion Singleton. He went 15 for 19 for 235 yards through the air, 4 touchdowns, and he had 8 carries for 108 yards and 1 touchdown. This is a freshman, mind you, doing his thing in a
Hmm.
win over the Burgess Mustangs. Big district win for the Chapin Huskies. Good job that they found a quarterback that they can rally behind. Number 4, I'll leave it to you.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, big. Congrats to Chapin. And again, guys, doesn't matter what your classification is, we will notice you. Riverside QB Ian Montion, 19 for 23, 337 yards, 3 TDs in their big Nelly. Riverside has just been rolling all year. Yes, a big part of it is Angel Munoz, who's unfortunately injured right now. But with the games, this is our what's that make about 3 games or so, Ryan, that
Mhm.
he's
He hasn't played.
missed or so for the year. 2 for injury, 1 because we all know that at the beginning of the year he ended up getting into a little scuffle or something and kicked out, and he had to miss the second game, or at least the first half or the whole game. I forget which one it was, but Ian Montion has stepped it up all those games to help lead Riverside, and that's where you say Riverside is a very dangerous because of kids like this. He comes off the bench and he puts up these numbers. I mean, it's just scary to watch, and it's interesting to see. You mentioned it. We might not see teams move forward, but Riverside's one of those teams that has a big, bright future moving into the playoffs.
And you know what's scary about it, man, is the fact that if quarterback Ian Monteon keeps putting up
Mhm.
numbers like this, Speedy doesn't have to play quarterback. He could go out as a running back
Exactly.
or wide receiver, and then
Yeah.
you're telling defenses to stop Adrian Estrada, Speedy
Mhm.
Munoz, Jose Guardado, Tristan Lopez. Like,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And like you said, that's what makes Riverside even scarier is that you got a quarterback in Angel Munoz, but then you could move him out to safe or to that slot receiver, and you still got your trick plays. You can still get that double pass. You can still get that, well, not double pass, but like that flea flicker.
yeah, or
You
different
still
types of
get
things
you
going.
get all those trick plays going out there, and it's just like they have so many weapons and they have so much at their disposal. It's scary and it's fun to watch. I mean, Riverside really they really have that they can only kill themselves right now. They can stop themselves, and so
Definitely.
we'll see who's gonna make them do that.
Looking at number 5, you got El Paso High's return of quarterback senior Jerry Chidas. In his first game back, he went 10 for 17, 232 yards, 2 touchdowns, and he had 16 carries for 91 yards in a big win over Jefferson. The Tigers are very happy to have him back and get things rolling.
Oh yeah, definitely. And when we heard that name coming over the air, and we're like, oh, that El Paso has this. They are looking, and like you said, they need that one more big win against Burgess more likely, and they're in the playoffs. And shout out to Jerry Chidas for coming back after being out for so long and putting up these numbers. I mean, it's huge. Number 6, Franklin QB Shea Smith is no stranger to the Soaring Seven, no stranger to be mentioned on this show. Went 20 for 32, 316 yards, 3 TDs, 9 carries, 91 yards in a win over Eastlake, leading Franklin in the big threat. And QB Shea Smith is a big part of that, and he's one half of that Smith and Sparks connection there that you hear every week. So we'll see what he can do these next few weeks.
And finally, rounding out the Soaring Seven, you have from Clint High School's running back Alexis Payares. 15 carries, 140 yards, 4 touchdowns, and a big win over the Mountain View Lobos. And let's not forget, it was a 28-27 win. So that means that this kid carried the team on his back. He scored all the
Or
points, and the extra field goal kicker got those extra points to get him in that victory. So good for him. Running down, I'm going to just real quickly run through all the district standings before we get into our top 10, and then we can get into our preview for next week. District 148 Division 1 standings. Riverside is in first place at 2-0. Austin 1-0. Bowie 1-0. And it looks like the last playoff seed is going to come out to probably the winner between the Irvin San Elzario game. In district, and actually, did I miss one? Oh, sorry,
I was
I
about
missed
to
a.
say, yeah, I think you skipped one by accident.
Yeah, there we go. District 148 Division 2 standings. Monahans is in first place at 2-0. Fort Stockton 2-1, which is kind of what we were expecting them to be 1-2. Then you got Mountain View, Pecos, and Clint all at 1-1, and I think it's going to be a matter of who wins those games. Who wins 2 out of those games right there to make those last 3 and 4 playoff seeds. Fortunately for
Oh
Fabians,
yeah.
they didn't have things go their way. They're 0-2 right now in the season. District 158 Division 2 standings. You have Chapin and Canutillo right now currently tied for first at 2-0. Andress and El Paso High at 1-1. Burgess and Jefferson at 0-2. And like I said, I think we kind of know though, Canutillo is probably going to be the one to run away with this one.
Mm-hmm.
Andress and Chapin's going to be a good game. Chapin's on the come up. Andress has been having some struggles. 2 and 3 seed might be up for grabs there. And then
Mm-hmm.
obviously El Paso High and Burgess is probably going to be that 4th seed playoff contention there. Going on in District 158 Division 1, Del Valle is at a 2-0. Bel Air 2-0 and a 7-0
Mm-hmm.
overall. Parkland 1-1, and Hanks 1-1. Fortunately, Isleta and Horizon are 0-2, and it doesn't look like they're going to be having much going for this. For the most part, it seems like playoff implications are pretty set in the district. It's more a matter of
Yeah.
seeding now. Who
Yeah.
goes, 1, 2, and 3? Is it Del Valle? Is it Bel Air? Is it Parkland? Who's going to go 1, 2, and 3 is what we're looking for now. And finally, in District 1-6A, in the craziest district of them all, you have
Uh,
Eastlake Falcons and Pebble Hills currently still tied for first place at 5-1 in district. Tied for, in third and fourth place, you have the Franklin Cougars and the Eastwood Troopers at 4-1. All these teams separate, and let's keep in mind too, they're a game
mhm.
behind. So
Oh, yeah.
it could very well be, where you have 1 through 4 all at 5-1. So that is
And they
that is
yeah.
definitely something that we're gonna be looking forward to. Then you got Mountwood and Americas, at 3-3 and 2-3 right behind them. Unfortunately, Socorro and Coronado, I think, have already pretty much played themselves out of
Mhm.
playoff contention. El Dorado might have already played themselves out as well, but no, I want to give them a big shout out because they've played
Oh,
tough
yeah.
in every single one of these games.
Oh, definitely. I mean, they've been great. I mean, all of these districts, looking at these standings, like we said, they're really, really close. There's still a few weeks left in the season, and what's great about it is you have big games coming. There's no few, especially this week. There's a lot of big games, but there's very few like rollover games for some of these teams.
Hmm.
Franklin, they have a big game this week. We'll get into that right now. Americas and Montwood, what's really helping them is their big wins over Franklin and Pebble Hills. So we'll see in 6A. This is the interesting one just because three. So they've got a lot of district games with them. So it really has. That's the one district that you can really solidify yourself at the top right away, or you can be in that mix like it is right now with 2 or 3 other teams to get into that playoff implications compared to these other 4 team, 16 districts.
Yep.
So it's gonna be fun.
So going into our top 10, we have number 1, Pebble Hills. Number 2, the
Mhm.
Franklin Cougars. Number 3, the Eastwood Troopers. Number 4, the Del Valle Conquistadores. Number 5, the Eastlake Falcons. Obviously, they have that big loss against Franklin, so they
Mhm.
dropped down our rankings. Number 6, the Riverside Rangers. 7, Canutillo Eagles. Number 8, the Bel Air Highlanders. Number 9, Americas. And number 10, Parkland. Looking in, you have Chapin, Mountwood, and Austin.
Mhm.
Some big games coming up, man. Right now, before we do our football preview, which is sponsored by Ray Navarro Photography and Veronica Reynolds Garcia Photography, proud sponsors of the football preview. So we're gonna get right into it. The last segment of the show, which is our football preview. Uh, Not going to spend a whole lot of time on some of the
Mhm.
easier games, but like on the big
Oh yeah.
games, you got Franklin Cougars, Pebble Hill Spartans. Could go either way. Um, I saw Pebble Hill struggles this past week and couldn't get too much going through the air. And Bo Sparks and Shea Smith have been just on fire lately. So I'm actually going to go Franklin Cougars in this one. Franklin over Pebble Hills.
I've been saying all year long that it looked Pebble Hills fighting for that top spot. And here we are, game time, and it looks like I still stand by it. It looks like the loser out of this will end up number 2 in the district, Franklin number 1. If Eastlake wants to, prove us all wrong, then go ahead. But Eastlake and Eastwood, both of those schools, but I'm gonna go with Franklin as well. I mean, Franklin offensively, defensively, they just are a good rounded team. And like I said, aside from that one flub up against Montwood, then I really think Franklin's just gonna they got things rolling right now. So I think Franklin will take this one. Next one you have Clint Pecos. We saw Pecos last week. Clint is always been, top dogs. They kind of struggled all year. Unfortunately, Pecos did not impress me at all. This has always been one of those powerhouses in this district. So I'm gonna go Clint on this one.
Yeah, same thing, man. I completely agree with you. Pecos did not look impressive in that game. Clint, has been getting better week in and week out. So I
Mhm.
think this one's going to be Clint Lions over the Pecos Eagles. Another District 148 match. We got the Fabians Wildcats and the Monahans Lobos. Unfortunately, Fabians is got a lot of things to figure out, and Monahans is rolling. And I feel like this one's not too much to talk about in these upcoming ones. I think it's Monahans Lobos.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be Monahans as well. I think Monahans will probably be that district title champion out of there. I think the team out of El Paso that's gonna give them the biggest competition will be Mountain View, but we'll wait to see that
That's the
game. But yeah,
that's the Lobos versus the Lobos there.
Lobos. We'll get the Lobos winning that game. Uh, so I'm gonna take Monahans over Fabins. Unfortunately, Fabins just is not there this year. Fort Stockton versus Mountain View. This should be a good matchup in this district. Another big implications on where you want to end up as Mountain View. Unfortunately, they got to go through Fort Stockton. Fort Stockton has been rolling through these El Paso teams, and not just El Paso teams in their classification. They're beating like 5A schools as well. So Fort Stockton's really dominant this year, really good. So I'm as good as Mountain View is. I'm gonna take Fort Stockton on this one.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Don't have anything different to say on that one. Fort
Yeah.
Stockton is my pick. Another pretty quickly easy one. Let's get to these next two pretty quickly.
Mhm.
Crane Golden Cranes, and the Tornillo Coyotes. Tornillo has too many struggles. I'm gonna go with Crane in this one.
Football game, I'm gonna go with Crane. In a mascot battle, I will go with the Coyotes, but Crane's gonna get
There you
it.
go. Anthony Wildcats versus the Sonora Broncos. Again, I don't know much about Sonora Broncos, but I do know that these teams, as you get, further east,
Mhm.
tend to have a lot more talent throughout the roster. So I'm gonna go Sonora Broncos in this one.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Sonora Broncos as well over the Anthony Wildcats. Mascot wise, probably the Broncos as well.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, probably kind of. Here we go.
uh
Here's a big one. America's Trailblazers, Coronado Thunderbirds. Well, I mean, you would think it's big because it's 6A, but again, Coronado playing better this year than they have before, but struggles continue with them.
mhm.
Don't have a lot to say in this one too. I say America's Trailblazers all day, every day.
Yeah, I say America's. If America's really wants to set a statement, they got to win big on this one. Coronado has kind of been competitive, but not there. So I say America's as well. Riverside, Austin. This being your alma mater, there, Ryan. I'm gonna let you have first pick because this is a big one for Riverside and
So yeah,
Austin.
you're right. This is a big game. This is basically, I think, the battle for who becomes first place in the district. However, I've seen both. Well, actually, I haven't seen Riverside play this year. I have seen
Mhm,
Austin play. Um, but you know, I just Riverside has too much to hand, man. Just too many offensive weapons.
mhm.
I mean, you could stop one, but I don't think Austin's going to stop them all. I think Riverside runs away with this game. I think it's going to stay close. It's going to be close for about a half, and then eventually, I think Austin's not going to be able to handle everything, and they're going to pull away once again.
You know, I agree. I think Riverside's gonna take it. It should be a close game because you have a battle of completely opposite offenses. You have Riverside who likes to just put stats and points on the board, whereas Austin is a little more conservative offensively with the ball. So who knows? Maybe that time of possession might help Austin in the end be in the game. But I think Riverside just has too many weapons offensively that the Austin defense is not going to be able to stop. Uh,
All right.
Horizon Isleta. This is just kind of a toss up here. Both teams not really doing great this year. I'm gonna go with Horizon just because they've been a little more competitive than
Check
Isleta
that.
has.
Let me see.
Oh,
Got it. Got it. Yep. We got heads. It's Horizon Scorpions on this one as I flip the coin. Coming up in the next one, I'm gonna let you go ahead and
All
get this
right.
next one because this is your game.
Yes. I will be on the radio this week. Last week Ryan was. Now this week it is my turn. I will be with Football Friday Nights, ESPN 600, covering Bowie out, visiting the San Elizario Eagles. This is a District 4A matchup. Sanelli struggling all year. Unfortunately, I don't see them improving. In this game, Bowie had their struggles, but Bowie does always dominate in games that they do need to dominate. So I'm gonna take the Bowie Bears big in this one.
Yeah, same. I just San Elizario has too many struggles this year, and I think Bowie walks away with this one.
Okay.
And yeah, don't have same
Not
exact
too
thing
much.
you said, Jerry. You took the
Uh,
words out of my mouth.
yes, I stole them. Socorro Bulldogs versus the El Dorado Aztecs. This is another game that you really can't say much about. El Dorado, easy.
Yeah, Estrada brothers are gonna have a field day.
Hmm.
Put up 1,000 yards and just do what they got to do. Score all day, every day.
We're gonna have to
Del-
kind of differentiate pretty soon here, Ryan. We have picked the
no, no, no,
exact
sir.
same.
You're.
I
We
mean,
all know
you
that you
picked.
like to go with my
Uh,
good
uh,
choices.
I mean, we all know that you picked completely opposite of me last week. So,
Yeah, that was
uh,
that was. I didn't sign off on that deal. Del Valle Conquistadores and Hanks Knights. Hanks doing better this year, but they don't have enough to keep up with the Del Valle Conquistadores.
mm,
This one should be another, I think, blowout victory, Del Valle.
oh yeah, Del Valle definitely. Hanks just they started off okay, strong, and yeah, they haven't done anything since. So Del Valle. Eastwood, Montwood. This is a big one. This one's kind of tough because Montwood, although you may think Montwood is not really a strong team, they've shown up against these bigger or these more talented teams, and they showed it against Franklin. They beat Franklin. They took it to Pebble Hill, or no, to to Eastlake, I believe it was, right? Yeah, no. Who am I? I'm thinking of some. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm having a brain fart there. But Montwood has been competitive all year, so I'm gonna take Montwood over Eastwood on this one to stir the pot up a little bit in those four rankings of the District 6A. I think Montwood's gonna really take it to Eastwood. Eastwood's good, but Eastwood also has had their moments where they kind of flub up a little bit.
Eastwood, strong offensively. Mountwood, strong offensively. This going to be one of those games where both teams score about 100 points. And it's going to be the winner's going to be the last one with the ball. But unfortunately, Eastwood's going to have the ball on the very last drive, and they're going to win this game. So it's going to be Eastwood Troopers with the Mountwood Rams. I got it.
There you go.
Going into our next game, probably as weird as this might sound, this could be a very well game of the week type of game here. You got the El Paso Tigers and the Burgess Mustangs. This could literally be battle for the fourth playoff seed right here.
Mhm.
So big things. El Paso Tigers got Jerry Chidas back. Burgess Mustangs, I've seen them play once and they don't got a lot, period. I'm going to go with the El Paso Tigers in this one. They're fighting for that playoff seed. And like I mentioned, they don't have a lot. Burgess does not have a lot going on for them. So, yeah, I'm going to say El Paso Tigers take this one.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna agree. I'm gonna say El Paso High Tigers. They got their quarterback back. Hopefully they get some more people back soon. And like I said, unfortunately they don't really release too much information as to who's playing. So we'll see. I guess we'll find out game time. But yeah, I got El Paso High winning that one. You have Andress Eagles taking on the Jefferson Silver Foxes. On this one, Jefferson has been decent and has been competitive, but Andress is starting to roll a little more in the second half of the season. So I'm going to take Andress over the Foxes.
Jerry Andrus all day, every day. Not much to be said in this one. Going on, you got Chapin Huskies and the Canutillo Eagles. Chapin Huskies starting to get on the roll a little bit, doing a lot better. If you asked me this a couple of weeks ago, I would say this is going to be a complete massacre. I
Mhm.
don't think it'll be a massacre at this point, but I don't think Chapin has what it takes to beat the Canateo Eagles. I think this is going to be one of those, uh, I would say like 35 to 17 victories. Canateos are going to win this game, but it's going to be closer than I think people think.
I think so too. I think Anotillo's going to take this one, and I think Chapin, they're rolling right now. They're going to use that to their advantage, but I think they just kind of they started it at the right time, but I think they started a little late, and Canotillo has just been doing this all year.
Mm-hmm.
Parkland Bel Air. This is the big one, Ryan, for a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people, especially down there for the Highlanders. Bel Air undefeated, Ryan, and they are looking to put their names on top of that district because right now, although they are still not getting the credit that they deserve. A lot of people say, you know what, Parkland and Del Valle are gonna just run all over these guys, and I don't think that's true. So I'm gonna stay on this bandwagon here with Bel Air, and I'm gonna say Bel Air, as some might say, upset over the Parkland Matadors. I'm gonna say Bel Air takes it to the Parkland Matadors, and it's gonna be a very good, close game to watch.
Yeah, and that's been the story all years. Bel Air is a perfect
Mhm.
7-0, but that they have not beat anybody with a winning record or playoff contender. And that may
Mhm.
be true, but offensively, they do got what it takes, and they've got a lot of weapons offensively. Parkland's coming off of a loss, I believe. Did they lose to Del Valle last week, or when was it that they, or whenever
Mm,
it may have been? They've already got
yeah,
that
they
one
lost to
district.
Del Valle, but
Hmm.
I don't believe it was last week. I believe it was
Okay,
the
well,
week
they
before.
got that one district loss to
Mhm.
Del Valle. Um, which is going to be playing on the back of their minds. They've been
Mhm.
inconsistent all year. They've had a lot of inconsistencies going on. I think they have a different quarterback playing too.
Mhm.
I'm going to go and stick with the bandwagon Bel Air Highlanders as well.
All
And
right.
in our final game and the football preview,
Mhm.
you've got the Cathedral Fighting Irish, your Cathedral Fighting Irish versus the St. Michael's Horsemen. Um, I have no idea. St. Michael's Horsemen is who I'm going with. I have no clue on this one.
I'm just it's a Saturday game. Cathedral's got to travel up to Santa Fe to play St. Michael's. I believe they're out of Santa Fe. St. Michael's Horsemen. So I'm gonna go with St. Michael's. Unfortunately, Cathedral just has kind of been up and down all year, and when you play a team like St. Michael's, doesn't help.
It doesn't help. But again, like I said, Jerry, we had a whole lot to talk about this
Oh yeah.
episode. It was fun. There was a lot of exciting things because of playoff
Hmm.
implications and districts and regionals, and everything's coming in. We're nearing the end of our football tenure and our volleyball tenure and our cross
Yep.
country tenure, and then we're about to jump right into, you know, uh, basketball and wrestling
Basketball.
and all
Yep.
the next
Mhm.
sports coming up. So it's definitely going to be something to look forward to. I'm excited for it. You're excited for it. Any closing words, Jerry?
Yeah, I'm really excited. You took the words right out of my mouth, Ryan. So I guess you returned the favor. But it is exciting. It's the end of the season, but it's the beginning of other seasons. So all of the games have playoff implications all across the board, cross country. Look for these runners to do big things. And don't forget, we forgot to mention, follow us on Twitter, Rep One Podcast, and Instagram, and on TikTok.
And make sure you guys like and subscribe the video
Yes.
below. The more subscribers we get, the better you help the channel grow. Each week we're showing growth, and keep supporting us. Help us keep rolling. Till next time, I'm Ryan Vidales, one of your co-hosts for the Prep One
I
podcast.
am Jerry the Jer Bear. Bye.